Okay, so this is Dior now. Still the first day, but it's later on in the afternoon. So I had the morning session with her where I was able to fix her halter. And that was about 30, 45-minute session, I think. So I'm just going to see what I can build upon from here. And so just working on a little bit of the building blocks where if she faces up to me, there we go. She's quite a brave, bold girl. That's what I really liked about her in the pins. She actually handled that really nicely. And again, any chance I have to kind of help get the bugs off or anything like that. And you see right there, she kind of said, hey, you're moving too fast. So I have to be aware of that. Just making sure I respect her and kind of how she's feeling in the moment. Kind of in these beginning stages, and how they react to things, I'm really kind of trying to teach her how everything's going to be okay, and kind of build upon those little building blocks that we can make. So they're getting some releases there. And all of these things are kind of important in the beginning because the sooner I can be able to touch their face, the sooner I can put medication on there to keep the bugs out, because the bugs can get so bad that we can get summer sores and they can get in their eyes pretty quickly. So it's something I really try to address so I can stay on top of that for them. There's just a little bit of a moment there where she wasn't sure. So going back to where she seems comfortable about the scratches. I know in the pens she had another Mustang in there that she did some wither scratches with, so sometimes it doesn't always relate to us, so you have to really translate to you. But she's seeming she's tolerating me for the most part. And again, she's pretty confident within herself. But right there, she told me that I was asking a little bit too much there. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a touch. Just because if I was to back away in that moment, that could actually teach her to become a little bit more aggressive. So it's kind of, again, that delicate line there where all I did was just a little touch of, nope, I hear you, but it's okay. And respecting the part of her being a little bit uncomfortable in there. And these are kind of all the little things that I do to help the beginning steps before I can get on them. Sometimes they're willing to accept it fairly early on, and I find that if you can show them that, hey, if you're willing to trust me to get on your back, I'm your friend, then things can move along pretty quickly. But sometimes they're not always open to it, and that's okay. It's actually a really nice afternoon. We have a nice breeze coming through, which is good because it's been so hot. Again, I'm just going to go back and build up on our scratches here and play around with me jumping around. Again, I just love how pretty good she is about that. Not too worried at all. See if I can get her to follow the feel. That was very nice. And help a little bit with touching the face and rubbing the face, those facial nerves on there. If I can get some nice rubs in and have them feel those releases, they can really start to enjoy that. As you can see, she's starting to follow quite nicely. And she said, no, I don't want to sniff you. I wanted to investigate on my own. So there, when she feels like, again, she wants to move, I just decided to try to follow. And then she's already picking up on the yield, which is nice. I'm going to see if I can get the yield to the right. Again, just having the feel. Oftentimes, once we have the left and getting the right, it's completely different. So I'm going to try to just use a little bit different technique here of running around to the other side to see if I can get into that right eye to send her forward. And there, I was able to get there. Again, every horse I try to use some different techniques to see what works. Again, she's not too bothered about me kind of running around her like that, so it's not that big of a deal. Versus I've had some other Mustangs, there's no way I could have been able to do that. But here she's moving quite nicely off to the right, which is very good. I'm going to see if I can get a yield and get her to follow and using my voice. That was a very good girl. She's very, very smart. Again, I'm just chatting a little bit with some of my students that came over. So it's good just to kind of let her have a minute. Again, just working on doing the touches, jumping around, and again, she's not too bothered by that, which is really nice. And then working on getting in that right eye. She was kind of a little bit of asleep at that moment. I'm going to see if I can get in there again, just so she can get used to seeing me in that side. They get very accustomed to the left side, and again, I'm comfortable on the left side too, so, and then I figured, oh, if I switch my shoulders, she reads that a little bit better. So that was actually a big improvement from the last time. So it's always interesting to me how they teach me different things about where I should put my body and timing. That's what I really find really fun about working with them. And here she comes into the touch with a nice posture. So again, I'm going to try to go position into that right eye again. See if I can. And there you see she blocks. She says nope. So sometimes it's a little bit like playing a chess match. But I'm really liking how she's following the halter. This is really, really good for day one. So I'm just going to go and grab a stick. And instead of grabbing the flag, I chose to grab, I have a stick with a ball on the end, which I think the horses really respond well to. So I'm just going to go on the side she's already comfortable with first. And this is very nice. See if I can get a yield. I'm going to give a couple little bumps. And there she's able to kind of sniff the stick. Now I'm going to work on showing it to her. And I'm just going to have this kind of as an extension of my arm to help me send her to the right. So here I'm going to keep a little bit more pressure, just a little bit more pressure. And let her think about it for a second. Just following her with the feel. And then kind of when she gives a little bit of the shape that I want or the direction, I'll soften up. That was a nice reaction. And again. Now she's kind of letting me over on that right side with the stick. Just trying to show her it's okay. And waiting for her. And there she kind of goes, oh, it's not so bad. And this is getting much better now. And sometimes what they'll do is, if they're pretty sensitive, they're fine with the stick, but the minute they feel just the electricity from your hands, you know, that we have, our heartbeat, all those things can produce energy. Sometimes that can create them to send off, but again, she's pretty good about the touch, which is good. And I'm just trying to help her here. She's just got some bugs in her eyes. She's got a little bit of a nick right under the eye, so just trying to make sure I can start to build some blocks to where I can address that. And there she's letting me give her some little bit more rubs on those facial nerves there. And here she lets me go in and touch, and that was a really good moment. Let her have a little bit of a break with that. So I decided to bring the other hay net that I had in the trailer that she seemed to really like to eat out of. She was eating out of the one I had hanging up, but it was a little bit difficult for her. And you see, I'm just kind of doing my thing. She's kind of like, what the heck, lady? Coming in and throwing the hay bag on the ground? And so I'm going to take some of the alfalfa that's in the black bag and put it on top of, I've got orchard grass hay in the pink bag. So I'm just going to kind of let her, watch and investigate what I'm doing. I'm going to pay attention a little bit and see. Here, she'll take some alfalfa from my hand. She's thinking about it. And there she did. That was really good. She's a pretty smart cookie. So I'm going to go back to stuffing the hay net. And it's funny to watch her kind of analyze everything. See, this is where she gets pretty curious, and again, that confidence that she has is what I really liked about her. And she's just deciding that she's going to eat while I fill up the bag. Oh, or take the bag. Okay. She just cracks me up a little bit. That didn't bother her at all. So I'm going to go back to stuffing the bag, and she's going to continue eating while I stuff the bag. So you can see she's starting to kind of get the idea that this relationship might have some perks. But that really did crack me up when she grabbed the hay net and just said, "Don't mind if I do. It's about time you gave me my hay net." So I'm almost done filling it. And she's pretty happy about the scraps that are on the floor. And then you can see Johnny and Win are my peanut gallery for the afternoon. And so I'm now able to be on that right side, and I can put detangler in her mane because it's quite matted. So I'm going to use a little bit of that. She's handling that pretty well. I'm just going to make sure I have that pretty well in there. And you see she gets a little nervous there, and I'm like, "No, you're all right." And she goes, "Okay." And then I have the hairbrush, and I like to always introduce them to the object before I move in with it. So I like to show it to her. Have to get the detangler off my hands. And then I'm going to do some little baby steps here. Because again, it's a different color, it's a different shape. All these things have to be taken into consideration. And then she handles the feel pretty well, but sometimes that can worry them. They don't like the feel of the mane being brushed, but she's actually pretty good with it. So sped this up because I spent a lot of time kind of like gently brushing it. And then she actually lets me use 2 hands to pull out some of the mats. And she feels comfortable enough to kind of scratch her leg. That's nice. So here we get a little bit of she had to move her feet. I'm going to place myself back on the right side. And she's a pretty good girl about it. And again, more mats I'm having to kind of just separate out. And she has a chunk in her mane where she had kind of like rubbed out. And oftentimes it's just a little bit of a rinse and repeat. But she was feeling like she wanted to go back to her little hay scraps here to eat, so I decided to kind of let her come back over here. And then finished up just with brushing out her forelock there, which she was a pretty good girl about. And then always just kind of taking those little step back, and then just found the opportunity for when she was wanting to munch to just kind of lean on her back a little bit. And worked with it on the right side as well. And you can see I've got swat on her eyes now, so she's got that to keep the bugs off her face. And you can see on this side she's a little less comfortable than she is on the left side, but that's okay. I really like the feel she's having with the halter. She's really nice and soft. And, you know, while she's being good, I always have to remember to breathe, because it's important for us to control our emotions as well. I thought that was really good. So after that, I let her go back to the alfalfa. And she's telling me now that she's had about enough of me, which I get. So I let her just finish up on that and call it a day.